Hello, hello. Welcome. We're happy to have you guys here for NASCAR Playoffs Live. And a big thank you to all the fans watching live on NASCAR.com. I'm Kim Kuhn alongside Steve Letarte. And we're kicking off the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series playoffs this weekend in Las Vegas. And today we're going to talk to all 16 of the playoff contenders.
Well, and how much more fun could it be? You saw the video, how crazy and exciting the regular season was. Well, the playoffs are only going to be better. But the playoffs can only be great with great competitors. We have 16 great drivers. We're going to hear from them all today, and perhaps they're going to tell us why they should be the champion.
No need to waste time talking, right? Should we
They don't want to
introduce
talk to us.
They don't want to talk to us. Let's start it.
All right, we're going to get it started. And in our first group, the first driver we're going to see today is young Ryan Blaney. Alex Bowman.
Next up, let's welcome your Daytona 500 champion, Austin Dillon. And give it up for one of the top 5 drivers in contention for NASCAR's most popular driver. You guessed it, Chase Elliott.
This driver's talented, but he's not the same without the mullet. Let's bring Eric Jones on stage. And hands down, the best karaoke singer of all drivers, Kyle Larson.
I think Kyle got a kick out of that intro.
I know things.
We're going to fire away, though. We're going to get it started. I'm going to start with Chase. Chase, the monkey is off your back. You've won a Cup Series race. I know all the fans were happy to see you take home the trophy at Watkins Glen. What's the mentality, though, this year for the playoffs for you and your team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the mentality really changes. You know, you're still trying to go win races and work your way through the final 10. So, yeah, it's just excited to go do it. You know, we talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. And I'm just wanting to go race and get it going. So, looking forward to Sunday.
Well, so you get the quest. Go ahead.
We've seen the passion from you, though. We saw it last year at Martinsville. Where are we going to see that passion this year?
The passion's always there. You might not always see it, you know, but it's, you know.
Someone's got to wreck him for him to come out.
I wondered how long this was going to take.
Yeah, so, I mean, the passion's always there, you know, and the fire to want to do good. I mean, if you don't have the fire and the want to do well, then don't come, you know, and we all want that. So yeah, I don't think that none of that changes. I think you kind of stay the course you're on and you know, run these last 10. I do think that the intensity level is up a little bit for the last 10, and when you get in those elimination situations and trying to work your way through, but it's a lot of fun, and that's what we're all here for.
With the intensity level up, and I mentioned the passion last year, obviously I'm referring to Martinsville, Denny Hamlin. Is there a concern when the passion gets ratcheted up between all the drivers that some of those run-ins might come up to haunt you?
Yeah, I mean they definitely could, I guess, you know, depending upon, you know, when it is and what happens, you know, and how it affected you. But you have to kind of take those situations and play them by ear, I guess, and figure them out as you go. But yeah, it should be fun to watch, and you know, the first round having that road course thing we're doing is going to be.
That was the best description I've heard yet.
Yeah.
This road course thing we're doing?
Yeah, that cobbled together road course we're going to race. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of crashes and stuff. People will be fired up, hurt feelings, and everything else. So it'll be good to watch.
So I'm going to avoid the road course, and I'm going to go to you, Eric. So Chase had to answer the question, when are you going to win, when are you going to win? But somehow you stayed off the radar, but you got that win, running well, running inside the top 5. How does that change your approach now that you're in the playoffs?
Well, it's different, I think, once you get going in the playoffs. You know, the intensity ramps up a little bit, and it's 10 weeks where you need to have your best races. You know, I feel like we've been on a good run for the last month and a half, but you know, it only really matters now once we get going here this weekend. So it's going to change and it's going to be different, but it's definitely nice to be running well when you start the playoffs. You know, it'd definitely be a different feeling about it had we had, you know, a month of bad races coming into here. So it's going to be fun, but it's definitely going to be a big challenge.
Well, so when you say intensity ratchets up, what does that mean? Internally at the company, against your competition, what really changes?
I think it's all of that, all the above. You know, I think in the shop, everybody's, you know, the pressure's on. I mean, the pressure's on to perform from the guys back at the shop. The pressure's on us to perform in the seat. It's just a whole, you know, group of things that come together that get that intensity to ramp up and really make us go out there. And that's why you see the more aggressive racing that you've seen in the playoffs here in years past. Is guys are really pressure's on to make it happen in 3 races in a round. That's not a lot of time. So it's everybody wants to get to Homestead and have that shot.
Kyle, we were talking backstage. You're, the 3rd or 4th favorite to win the championship this year, odds 6-1. Still haven't won a race, though, this year. You've been so close. We look at the number of seconds you've had. Does that lack of wins, though, result in a lack of confidence heading into the playoffs?
No, actually, I feel like the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've ran really well. We were able to dominate the race at Darlington. We didn't get the win, but we hadn't had that speed all year and really even part of last season. So if I didn't have run like that, and then going to Indy, we had a good car there as well. That really helps my confidence starting the playoffs. So if you'd asked me 4 weeks ago how I thought my playoffs was going to be, wasn't really that high about it. But now I feel like our cars are getting better, and I think we can make a good run at it.
You mentioned Darlington. I want to bring this up. You played nice guy at the end of one of the stages, and you said you hope that karma comes back around. During the playoffs, though, can you be the nice guy, or do you have to put on a game face?
I mean, in that instance of letting people get their laps back, you can still do that if you have a huge lead. But no,
do people pay the favor back during the heat of the playoffs?
Between the guys in the playoffs, probably not. But I think
I'm looking at all their reactions over there.
But the guys that the guys that aren't in the playoffs, if you've raced them with respect throughout the year or years, I think that's when they show a little more give and take and can make life a little easier on you. So I feel like I've been a good guy for a while, so we'll see how it goes.
All right, that's enough about competition. Blaney, this is the tough question for you. You're going to sell me now. Why are you going to be a better champion than everybody here?
Dude, I don't know.
Come on.
I've never
sell
been
it to the fans.
You lost my vote instantly.
That's a terrible question to ask.
That is a terrible question to ask. You know what, Steve? That was a stupid question to ask.
Oh, don't be like why you want to be ugly?
Joking. I'm joking.
I'm trying to figure out who I want to vote for to know whose party to go to, and I got nothing.
I figured out where you were going with that, with the party, right?
I was trying to get there politely.
Well, you should have just asked me instead of beating around the bush. But no, what did you ask again? I can't remember.
He asked, are you going to beat around the bush?
No, listen. I think we just proved that your party was going to be pretty good.
Yeah. My memory is foggy right now. No, I don't really like the campaigning yourself to, this is why you should follow me or something like that. Or, this is why I'm going to be a better champion than all these guys.
He's more just asking how big's the party going to be if you win.
Oh, it'd be large. Yeah.
No, I knew that. How about, answer me this then. So a couple years in, you got the win last year, winless this year. You have to race these guys and your teammates. In all of your racing career, is there anything more difficult than what you're going to try to do here?
No, this is the most difficult thing. I feel like, we're at the top level of NASCAR racing and really top level of racing in the United States. And, this is the toughest challenge you face all year. You get 16 of the best teams and drivers, and you put them in a 10-week stint, and you eliminate them along the way. That's hard to do. That's hard to keep advancing and keep moving on. And only the best teams do it. And, that's why we have this playoff system is to narrow down the teams that can really overcome tough obstacles as far as whether it's races or facing elimination, other cars and teams, drivers. But it's really, really tough to do, and we're fortunate to all be on this stage and in this spot to have a shot at running for a championship. That's really all you ask for at the beginning of the year is just to have a shot at it, and then you kind of have a little bit of control of how far you can go to maybe have that final last chance opportunity at being the Final Four and trying to actually win the championship.
Yeah, I remember not every race was the same when I was on the pit box. So when you line up Sunday and you finally strap in back to your office, right? I don't have to talk to anybody else. Do you expect there to, I don't want to call them nerves, but it should feel different, I imagine.
Maybe a little bit. Honestly, if we never had any of this stuff leading up to the playoffs.
That's why we do all this.
It would. I know. Oh, I know. If we never had any of this, and the playoffs started at Vegas like this, and we never had all this stuff, it'd just be another race. And really, at the end of the day, it's just another race. And you can't overthink it. Yeah, you're going for a big prize because that's what we all race for. We race for wins and championships, championship being on top of it. But if you psych yourself out and saying, I got to do this, if you change your routine from what you've been doing all year, I don't know if that's a good thing, changing the last minute. I approach it like every other race weekend. You try to win the race, win stages, get the most stage points as you can. That's at the end of the day, it's the same thing. Just the prize is a little bit bigger, and you put a different label on it. It's the playoffs. That's why it feels a little bit different. But I don't really think the nerves will be anywhere. Honestly, the only nerves is when we're sitting up here doing this stuff. When we finally can, when we can finally strap in the car and be by ourselves. That's kind of when, like every race, you shut everything else out, and it's just time to go do your job and go try to figure out how to do it better than 39 other people.
Alex, you were the 16th man in. Do you think people have written you off because of that? And if so, why shouldn't they?
No, I mean, I think we have as good of a shot at it as any. Kind of struggled as a company this year a little bit more than we expected, but we've definitely been bringing better cars to the racetrack and continually improving. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's this first round is probably a challenge for us. It's probably the two worst racetracks and then that road course thing. But for us in the playoffs, I think as the rounds go, the tracks get better for us. But it'll be interesting. It's. Man, I can't take you guys anywhere. No, it's just cool for me to have a shot at it, kind of like they were saying. And, this time last year I was sitting on the couch. So to be a part of the playoffs is a special thing. And driving the 88 car this year has been a lot of fun.
So, Austin, you started the season off the best way, winning the Daytona 500, but it has been a struggle all summer. And a month ago, 5 weeks ago, I had a hard time envisioning what it was going to look like in the playoffs. But in the last 2 or 3 weeks, namely Michigan, a huge uptick. Where does that put you heading into the playoffs?
Yeah, it definitely builds confidence, like Eric was saying earlier, when you can run good leading up to the playoffs. But, still we're trying to find that consistency each and every week. And we've worked hard on our Camaro ZL1. And I think these drivers up here, we should, make a deal. If we just wreck the big three the next couple weeks, we're going to have a lot better shot coming to Homestead. I mean, you guys,
I'm not scared.
You in? We could, split the profits from the championship. It could go a long way.
I'm looking
our ratings in Vegas would go way up if they're not in Homestead.
Is that a possibility, though? I was going to ask. We talked so much at the beginning of the year. It was like you pitting the young guns against the old guys. Well, the big three, they fall into that old guy category, despite
I think I've almost got to the old guy category, too, but not because of the big three.
So do you guys essentially team up against them?
I'm asking. Everybody got quiet. I feel like an asshole now.
And with one line, Austin Dillon has changed the odds in Vegas. The sports books are currently adjusting their numbers.
Bowman said he's in.
Yeah, I heard him.
Bowman's in.
Chase.
So you're a team of two right now.
Everybody else is scared.
The two best friends that anybody could have.
We'll just beat them head up. We don't need to crash them.
You got a little
Good
more
for
speed
you.
than us here lately, bud.
All right, we know you have a busy day. We're going to let you off the hook at that. So how about a round of applause for the first 6 drivers from the playoffs?
So, like Steve said, the first 6 drivers of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, and we heard some interesting things.
We heard
Austin
some great
Dillon.
stuff. Yeah, Austin Dillon threw the gauntlet down, and I just told Ryan Blaney that I'm going to get even with him because I have the mic longer. So,
Well, I think we actually should have started talking with Austin because he's the one that seems to be a little bit on the chip. I liked it, though. I liked it.
I have a sneaky sensation the other 6 drivers we're going to call out here, they're going to have an opinion as well.
Absolutely. So like I said, you've heard from 6. We still have 10 to go. So let's meet the next 6 drivers in the playoffs.
All right, it starts with Eric Almirola. You can sit wherever you want.
Wherever
man. It's
you
open.
want.
No one celebrates a win like this guy, Clint Boyer.
Anywhere you want. Give it up for past champion Kurt Busch. And let's hear the crowd give a warm welcome to Denny Hamlin.
Was this Austin's chair?
I don't know. All right, this next driver, I'm not even going to use his name. I'm just going to call him 7-time. Bring out JJ. And Joey Logano.
Jolo.
Listen, Clint, no playing with the chairs. The last group got very distracted with the chairs.
Well, this one was like 2 feet higher than the rest of them when I got in it.
Listen, we know you have a busy day. We're going to fire some quick questions so you can respond. I'm going to start with Jimmy. So 6 champions in the field, 5 have all won 1. You've won 7. But the gambler and myself goes to the sports book, and you're a 33-1 long shot. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, when we look at the year that we've had, we haven't led many laps. We haven't won a race. So we've got a lot of work to do. Would
you please not wake the sleeping giant?
I know.
Shut up, Steve.
I'm trying to find questions that he hasn't heard, and Ryan Blaney called my question dumb, so I'm trying to be better.
Do not wake him up.
He's playing possum. I was told to talk to you about your shirt. Is that?
What's wrong with my shirt?
Okay, never mind.
This is it, man. I mean, I didn't listen.
Well, we have this.
I know it's hard to believe.
This. I mean,
hey. I wasn't walking around Vegas in my fire suit.
So we've already coined Jimmy the Sleeping Giant. So, Eric, let's talk to you. You've had a career year, some great stats, but still not quite gotten to a win yet. Does that put you in underdog status? Where do you fall in the 16-player playoff grid?
Yeah, I think we would be an underdog. We haven't won a race, but we've got speed. We've got that part right. We just don't execute. We don't when we have cars capable of winning, either luck doesn't go our way or driver makes a mistake or we fumble on pit road. So we've got to clean up and we've got to execute. And the speed is the hardest part to get. So if we can do all those other things right here for these next 10 weeks, I think we could be a surprise.
So, Danny, I tried to figure out what to ask you about, and I went back through your career. It's like the highlight reel. You raced Jimmy for a championship years ago, basically heads up. You got in with Chase Elliott last year. You almost won the Brickyard this year. So, with all of that, what makes you a favorite heading into the playoffs?
I don't know that we are we?
That was a lot of confidence.
I mean, dang.
Bleeding out of you.
I mean, Clint, I'm trying to come back with a good follow-up.
You had the odds down on Jimmy, 33-1. What am I?
Not quite that much of a long shot and not close to a favorite.
All right, then. I'm not a favorite.
I'm trying to, but I thought you were going to sell for yourself.
I mean, the only reason I can rationale is that we have no weaknesses. There's every racetrack we can win at. We know that. I think the tracks lay out very good for me in the last 5 weeks of the year. So that's my rationale is that we are running better. Still not where we kind of need to be in my mind, but we've shown some speed. Getting 3 out of the last 4 poles, and we just got to get it together on race day. Really, that's the biggest thing. And last week we had a chance at that, but certainly we know that in the playoffs we typically always step up a little bit more, and hopefully this year's no exception.
See, he had it. He just didn't want to give me the answer right away.
You got it out of him.
Well, then let's talk to you, Clint. All SHR, all 4 cars in the playoffs. At what point, though, during that – yeah, you can go. At what point during these next 10 races, though, does it change from a team mentality to every man for himself?
I don't think it can.
Hopefully soon.
No.
You guys all start fighting.
The Sleeping Giant wants
I think
you guys to fight.
That's what I'm most proud of is we have a group of drivers. I mean, you got 2 champions of the sport as teammates. Eric has come on board and really answered the call and got that 10 car running well right alongside of the other 3. I mean, all of us had shots at winning races. Eric, I mean, he had New Hampshire won if some dummy wouldn't hit the wall with 10 laps ago or whatever when my rear end fell out of my car. But what I'm trying to tell you is I was a dummy. But, I think that's where the pride comes from. Due to a lot of people's hard work, the Army behind those 4 cars, everybody has that Army, but right now our Army's answering that call and is doing a little better job. Putting all 4 cars in a chase in this level of competition is something to be proud of, and we certainly are.
But at what point does that go out the window? Is it the last lap?
Playoffs. Hey, last time I was in it is a chase, damn it.
What I was going to say, yes, you can be proud of your team, but at what point does that go out the window? Is it the last lap at Homestead if all 4 SHR cars are in the Final 4 that you're like, all right.
What are you getting at? See, this is how the media and you guys, you dig. You want us to fail and make a mistake.
No.
Here. Yes, I will rake his ass, wreck him to win a championship.
That's what we were looking for, right?
Here's where the problem lies. He'll do the same thing.
That's what you guys wanted to hear, right? Yes.
And he will too.
I feel like I should just give these cards to Clint, but
right.
So, I mean, we know you have to race each other, but what is your strength and your teammates' strengths? I mean, there's 4 teams. You guys are all in it. So how is it different from the 14 to the 10 to the 41 to the 4?
I think all the setups are really close. Each week we're all within a pretty tight box, and there's what I can do different maybe is tire wear. I think we see a lot of good speed out of the 41 on some long green flag runs, but we all work together well. We all have decent pit crews. The aero is there. The engines, we love Doug Yates and the Ford engines. At the end of the day, I mean, yeah, Doug Yates, hell yeah, good power. We don't look at Talladega as a problem. We go there to kick ass because Doug Yates gives us good power for the restrictor plate races. But, back to the teammates working together, I mean, there's 6 days in the week. That's when you work together, and then you go to kick each other's ass on Sunday.
I like that.
I like that attitude.
You can tell we all found out that this wasn't on actually live television when Austin threw out that butthole comment earlier. We went to another level, so we established that before we came out here.
So, yes, if there's anything you would like to say, have at it.
Well, there was a question earlier, like, what's your favorite cuss word? And I'm like, oh, shit, I don't know. Oh, there it was.
Joey, for you, you missed the playoffs last year.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. But what did you learn on the outside looking in?
How much I'd rather be in it. I think last year, we kind of took for granted that we would be in the playoffs. After finishing second in the championship standings, you think, oh, making the playoffs, that'd be easy. And next thing you know, you find yourself on the outside looking in. And that was, a few years ago, Jimmy said this. He said the playoffs is 10 weeks of hell. And being outside of the playoffs, that's 10 weeks of hell. So So I'm a big believer of the pressure is a privilege when it comes to the playoffs and being involved with it. So I'm excited about it and ready to redeem ourselves and get ourselves to that championship 4 and hopefully get the championship finally.
So I have the question. You've been in some dust-ups. You have. Everyone has. Do they finally ever go away over time? Like, is it awkward when you have to do all the media stuff and you run into Chase or you see whoever it might be or we've all had it, because I know there are people in the garage that don't like me for decisions I've made. So what is it like to be drivers when you have to come out, play nice, do the media?
Let me tell you this one. I've had a lot of them. It goes away over time, but it's like when both parties decide, like, okay, are we men? We're moving on. That's when it seems like it extinguishes itself. But if they don't, if the other guy wants to keep it going, then you end up racing them hard, and you take away an inch out on the racetrack, and then he's going to take that inch back, and then you reignite it and have another wreck, and it just carries on.
So did the line move in the playoffs versus the regular season? Like, what's acceptable? I mean, there's more on the line.
I think so, and I think that the lines continue to move. Just in my time of being in the sport, and we all remember Mark Martin, and he taught a lot of us veterans a way to race week in and week out, and that crap's out the window. Like you don't cut a guy a break and think, oh yeah, I'll come past him later and he'll wave me by. Like, the game has changed, and track position is so important. That line is in a far different spot.
Somebody might need to talk to Larson because he thinks, I think if he plays good guy, it might come back. Good karma.
I think, with the way these rounds are, though, there's so much on the line. And there's a point that one of us at some point will have our backs up against the wall, and how desperate are you? And what are you willing to do? And I think that's kind of the line it comes down to, and it is definitely a test of your character and what you think is right. And sometimes you don't have time to think about it. You know, you're in the moment. We're going 200 miles an hour. You better make a decision quick. It's kind of how it works, and you know, it's interesting, but that's what the playoffs are about, right? At some point during these next 10 weeks, someone's going to pressure each other into something, and it's I guess that makes it pretty exciting for you guys. That's what it's all about.
It surely makes my job much easier, so I'm a big fan
there you go.
of all of that. So the question is, does it change from round to round to round? Like, we start here, we've never seen these 3 tracks. Then we're not going to talk about Charlotte. Nobody wants to talk about Charlotte. Then the last round, to your point, is pretty much the same. Is that what you guys would want in a perfect world? Do you want the tracks to change? What do you like about the playoffs? Do you like the variety that we see in this first round, second round, third round? Or is it easier to prepare if you knew what it was every year?
I think we all drastically underestimated the Roval. I think when they announced the Roval, we were all busy in our day jobs and doing our own thing, and we went to that test and tore up half the field, and we're all like, oh, hey, hey. This can't be a cutoff. This can't even be.
Yeah, we were all excited for a moment. Like
It's too late.
Talladega.
We already
is not
made that bid.
The cutoff in the second round. We're like, oh, yeah, look, they moved Talladega. Oh, no, Roval.
So does the intensity ratchet up on the first 2 races?
That's what I was going to
this
say.
round?
You might see the best race Richmond's ever seen in the history of the sport because we all want to win, so we don't have to even show up there.
Like I said from the start, I should have just gave Clint Boyer the mic from the start. So let's hear it for the 6 more drivers of the playoff 16.
Thanks, guys.
I was joking, Marcus. Sorry. Your motor.
He's right back there.
Super sorry about that one.
They're a fun group, right?
I knew Clint was going to be trouble.
It sounds like, though, if we get desperation mode, we get action. That's what Joey told us.
So Jeff Burton and I had this conversation. He didn't think as a driver he could do more. He thought he tried hard every week. And I think that's what you see up here is they're not sure what the line is. But now as we watch these playoffs, they're crazier every year, and I expect even crazier this year. So crazy. This has been a little bit crazy. Has everybody had a good time? Everybody at home? Well, we've seen
12 of the 16.
I'm glad you're good with my math.
Yeah, I'm doing all the math in my head.
So we saved these last 4. Kyle Larson talked about the odds. He's in there. But if you walk around, you check at all the sports books, and there's a reason these drivers have won how many?
19 of 26 races this season.
So it started as a big 3. Arguably, after the last 2 weeks, perhaps it's a big 4. Let's bring the last 4 drivers on stage and talk to them. And it has to get started with the regular season champ, Kyle Busch.
Mixed crowd. 7-time race winner this season, Mr. Kevin Harvick.
We've had back-to-back crown jewel races, and Brad Keselowski has won both of them.
And your 2017 Cup Series champion, defending his title this season, Martin Truex Jr. Hi, guys.
Hey, what's going on?
Why is everybody looking at me?
Man, because you got booed in your hometown. That's why. Come on, man. You heard it.
That's because I won too much at the bull ring.
Hey, listen, I'm not saying it was good or bad. I'm just pointing out the facts.
You have won a lot this year, like Steve mentioned, regular season champion. So, Kyle, does that make you the best driver on the Cup circuit?
Yes. But I'm sure they have something to say about it as well.
Guys?
Crazy. So word of the day. It's crazy. Everything's crazy.
Crazy?
You're crazy.
Absolutely.
I thought the word wasn't it not exciting?
Excited.
Yeah.
Excited. Oh, yeah, excited.
Excited and crazy.
This is what happens when you put them in front of
Crazy
media for
excited.
too long. They get like media drunk. You haven't said anything. You're like shell-shocked sitting up here at what's going on.
I'm just along for the show.
All right, so let's talk about the show. Normally, we hear from you at week 9, heading into Miami. You sit up there with the 3 other competitors, and you're always very vocal about what you expect, why you should be the favorite, or how are you going to beat them. You said you were going to, grind Gibbs into the ground or whatever it was this year. But you've been quiet this week. So do you have nothing to say at the start of the playoffs?
I don't. No, I don't. I think it's, for us, we've had a great regular season, and we need to keep doing the same things that we're doing. So no need for noise.
So it's happened in years past, but this is probably the most recent where 2, 3 guys have really separated themselves and dominated so much. Is it easier or more difficult when competitors and less competitors win so many races? Is it easier to know who you're racing against? Is your approach?
I don't think so. And the reason that I say that, I mean, you look at Brad the last couple weeks, and you see how hard the whole garage works, because we've all been on the other side of that as you work to try to catch up and do things differently when you're behind to try to catch the guys that are winning. So I think as you look at this year, I think it's unique because Brad and Joey have kind of been late bloomers. The Hendrick cars have kind of not run as well as they have in the past, and I would look at the 18 and 78 and our team. I think that we just have kind of maintained what we've done the last few years. I know we've capitalized on a few more situations this year, but I feel like we've had those situations in the past. We just haven't been as good to capitalize on the things as we have this year. So it's to me it's fun because of the fact that I look at each of their crew chiefs and the drivers of those cars as holding a high standard as to where you are as a team, and being able to do that on a week-to-week basis is not easy, especially year to year, and for us switching manufacturers. So there's just a number of things that come with that.
Just in terms of odds to win, this is the best at the best we're looking at. So, Martin, how do you set yourself apart from these other 3 guys?
Well, it's definitely difficult. I think Kevin hit on a lot of really great points. For us, this is something we've worked at year after year as a group, and I think really all of our teams, if you look at it, drivers, crew chiefs, we've all been together for quite a few years, and I think it's just a constant evolution of your team and a work in progress, and you try to just take all those little things and get better at each of them, get better at each racetrack. Maybe there's some tracks you're not good at, so. Really, to set yourself apart, you got to be perfect. I mean, these guys have great teams. We've seen, all of us have won championships, and I believe it's with our current teams as well. So I mean, it's really tough to be on top of the sport right now with all the great teams and people we have out there. But you just really try to capitalize on your strengths and work on your weaknesses. That's what you do. I mean, that's what we all do every single day. Look in the mirror and say, what can I be better at? And sometimes it's tough, but you got to be honest, and you got to try to be better at everything you do to beat these guys.
So, Brad, you've made the big shift. Kevin mentioned it, and I think you would admit it, from February to the last 2 weeks, a big big improvement in performance out of the 2. Did you think heading into the playoffs it was possible 3 weeks ago to say, hey, we're going to win back-to-back races and now be sitting on the stage with the 3 guys that have dominated the season so far?
Yeah, the last 2 weeks have been amazing. I think, first of all, this is my first time being here in South Point and seeing this area. This is beautiful. It's great to see so many people out here. So I'd like to say thanks to everybody for coming out. I appreciate you guys being here. But, yeah, the last 2 races have been a real dream come true for me personally. My wife asked me before each one of the races started, because, we have a little daughter, and she said, do you think I should have clothes ready in case you were to win the race? I said, well, I don't know. I don't think we're all that great. And both times I proved that wrong, but that just shows you that you don't really know. And I feel that way coming in the race at Vegas. I don't really know how we're going to run, but I'm really proud of the last 2 weeks. We certainly weren't probably the best car. We were pretty good at Darlington, but we probably weren't the best car any of those 2 weeks. But our team did a great job of being in position and then executing on the pit stops and the final restarts and so forth. So we're really proud of that. But those are great trophies to have and great wins to have, and the playoff bonus points are really nice. But at the end of the day, when these 10 weeks come up in front of you, nobody really cares about what I have done or what anyone else has done, because the opportunity is the same in front of anyone. If you go out and win races, the playoff bonus points and all that stuff, they don't matter because you automatically advance. And so I look at these few weeks coming ahead and think of it almost like a clean slate.
So there's no guarantees. But all 4 you're going to have to answer what 4 drivers are going to end up in Miami, in your opinion? Assuming you can give me 3, because I would hope you would all vote for yourself. If anyone doesn't vote for themselves, you're definitely in big trouble. So,
will this be the final 4, or is somebody else a dark horse to contend with you guys?
We'll see in 10 weeks.
Man, that was non-committal.
Kyle, for you, you've said in the past nothing surprises you anymore. Who would you be surprised by if they made the final 4?
The problem is, it's not a problem, but the problem is it's so hard to choose because there's so many that are eligible, for one. For two, so many that can be contenders that can get there, barring unforeseen circumstances from any of us, obviously. The 9 has been running well lately. The 22 has been running well lately. You never know. You can never count out the 48, obviously, so there's those guys. And Larson, obviously, Larson knows that if he can get himself to Homestead and be championship eligible, he's going to be the favorite. So, there's all of that going. There's a story behind any one of the 16 guys that are in the playoffs.
So I guess I'll flip it then. Would you guys be surprised if at least 3 of the 4, whoever it is on here, don't make it to the final 4? Are you surprised if none of you guys make it?
I would be shocked if none of us made it. Yeah, I'd be honest. I think this is a really good group of drivers and teams.
That can't even be a bet. Like, that can't even be a line in Vegas, right?
Those are some long odds I'd have to have. I mean, I'm a gambling guy, but you'd have to really give me some long odds there. So let's take Miami out. What's the toughest round? I mean, you guys have points, so you have a different approach. But what's the toughest round?
I kind of think of them all 3 pretty equally, other than that you have less cars as you go. But the first round looks really tough with the Roval, and I think you probably heard that from the other groups in front of us because we don't really know what to expect there other than a lot of chaos. So that's probably the toughest race of the rounds, but then you have more cars in that round, so that eases it up a little bit. But I kind of look at them all pretty equally.
Yeah, I mean, with the points, you got to feel better about that round than the other 12 we've talked to.
I don't think you can have enough points to feel good about it. I look at Larson last year, and when they had the 2 races that they got in trouble in that round, I mean, we had this same conversation that Kyle Larson was a lock. He's going to Homestead, and just 2 out of the 3 races, and that's it. And it's easy to do. It can be an engine and a tire.
Listen, I'm not going to disagree because Dale Jr. and I have that bet. He says 3 of the 4 on the stage are a lock. I disagreed. I said 2. I had no idea why. But it's just too complicated, right? I mean, we've all seen how fragile it can be, how something, a flat tire, bad pit stop, bad caution can take you out of that. So in each of you, and I don't want to call it a weakness, where does the 4 team have to improve the most over the next 10 weeks for you to feel good about Miami?
Yeah, I think you have to capitalize on the days when you're in contention to win a race. And over the last 3 weeks we've had a lot of things happen, made some mistakes. But the rebound is really, I think it's 2/4 and a 9th that we've had over the last 3 weeks. And, we were a couple laps down in a couple of those races. And, to be able to rebound, that's playoff racing. And you have to be able to rebound on a day like that and be able to get a top 5 or a top 10 out of it is going to minimize the damage that you have during that particular day. But I think when you look back at the regular season is a great example for me. In our team, just because of the fact, like when you look at California Speedway, we wrecked before the first stage. He wins the race, wins both stages. He has a solid day, gains stage points. We wrecked before the first stage in Charlotte. He wins all 3 stages and the race. So just in those 2 races, and then you have a third where the same thing happens. So that happens in the playoffs, and you wreck before the first stage, and you get 0 stage points in either stage. It just adds up so fast. It's a lot harder. It's a lot easier to lose them than it is to gain them, especially when you look at this group, because there's going to be a couple of them that have those weekends where if they're not winning the stage, they're going to finish 2nd or 3rd in both stages, and they're going to finish 2nd or 3rd in the race. And next thing you know, you've lost 35, 40 points, and just like that, you're in trouble.
Does history change the way you race? I'm going to ask you because it was your teammate. Denny Hamlin, right, wrong, or indifferent, gets in a wreck with the 24 at Martinsville. That affects him at Phoenix. I mean, there's no doubt, right? That was a carryover result of that. In the position you're in, and you're in with those points, I mean, you able to even process that? Do you think, hey, what's a win maybe not be as important? I just don't want to create an enemy for that last round? Because we have seen this get more heated than I think any of us could have imagined what was going to be acceptable in the playoffs.
I mean, I would say that for me, I would say that it cost Joey Logano a championship.
Yeah, or at least a chance at one for sure.
I think that they had the best car that year. I think Kansas doesn't happen, Martinsville doesn't happen, and he wins the championship, in my opinion. So sometimes you have to balance a race win with what is best for your team. As far as how it all went down in Kansas, and you look at Denny Hamlin and Chase last year. I mean, ultimately, he wasn't going to win that race at Phoenix, and so sometimes it's just those are split-second decisions that a lot of us, myself, is not smart enough to make on some of those moments, because all you're thinking about is winning, because that's what you put yourself in position to do, and you want to take advantage of that one particular race. But sometimes it can work the flip side for you. So a lot to process.
Well, you two on the end, you're the most. I mean, you guys have hit each other more than I've hit anything in a park on. So I asked in the last
We finally missed each other at Watkins Glen this year.
No, I know.
I was hoping when I sat here that it would work out.
I did.
Like that,
I have really enjoyed watching where everybody sits.
Question.
But, I mean, seriously, do you race like that's water under the bridge, right? Like, because you've raced all year long, right? Now you get into the playoffs. He mentions it. I think me specifically, I can't go run 200 miles an hour, so I can't imagine you can start thinking about things like you just mentioned, but you obviously do. When I brought up Denny Hamlin, you were shaking your head yes. So as we see these playoffs, you get smarter every year. Do you race people differently because of who they are, what the history is?
Does it ignite things faster, too, having a history?
I mean, it can, obviously, but I think
Jerks is like yes.
I think what Kevin said, though, you got to be smart in each scenario. There's obviously opportune times for guys to make your life hell in any given circumstance in any race, especially when it comes down to Homestead. I feel like that's probably how we lost our championship last year. Was Logano held me up for 8 to 10 laps at Homestead, and I got by him, and Truex was 3 seconds out. I ran him down from 3 seconds back, and then I stalled out when I got there because I wasted so much time and so much tire having to get by the 22. So you just got to pick and choose your battles and figure out what's going to be best for the overall situation, in my opinion.
Y'all better have a conversation with Austin Dillon, because he was politicking to get the first two groups to go against y'all. He was like trying to raise an army. He was trying to. He didn't have a lot of. Alex Bowman committed.
Alex
but
Bowman agreed.
Kyle Larson stepped away as fast as he could. He wanted no part of it.
Logano, though, mentioned something that Kevin was talking about the line and making decisions, and in that moment, having a clear head and being backed into a corner. At what point does desperation hit? I know a lot of you guys have a good padding of points, so a desperation type scenario probably wouldn't happen until late in the run. But what is a desperation situation in the playoffs?
I think, you get to those cutoff races, and if you don't have enough points, you're in trouble. And I think that definitely hits everyone a little differently. But and I heard Clint, before we walked up, talking about what Richmond might be the most exciting race of the year, because nobody wants to go to the Roval and be in a cutoff race and not have enough points to make their way through. So those cutoff races, to me, have such a huge intensity, especially if you're behind, and it's really easy to get super anxious in those races.
Well, we've seen you do it. You've done the must-win. I've seen you do it I don't know how many times at the must-win. So what I've learned is Jeff Burton said that he thought he was driving as hard as he could, then the playoffs started, and you guys every year bring it to a new level. I expect this to be no different. I'm going to remind myself of these very patient, calm people as we go through the next time. This one concerns me because he just has that grin. So I'm gonna see. I've seen this grin before. Fortunately, I don't have to race against that grin anymore. So.
Any final thoughts, guys?
Let's go.
This one's ready. I agree with Kyle Busch. This is fun, and Media Day is fun, but I'm ready to see cars on the racetrack. So we want to thank you guys. A round of applause to what I have to consider the favorites of the championship.
So again, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for everyone watching at home on NASCAR.com. It was great to hear from all 16 of our playoff drivers. I think things are going to ratchet up very fast.
Well, they're all, not only are they smarter on the racetrack, but they're smarter on Media Day. They've been a part of this. They know what's coming. So we're going to get all 16 back out here in a moment. We're going to bring the trophy out, and we're going to get a picture. Appreciate everybody coming out. I'm ready to get some cars on the racetrack. I hope you guys are as well. So it's going to be fun. Later today, 5 to 7 Eastern on NBCSN. We're going to watch the cars go down the strip, do some burnout. And then on Sunday, 3 Eastern, myself, Dale Jr., Jeff Burton, Rick Allen are going to call racing. And this is fun, but nothing beats the cars on track when the racing starts.
Absolutely. And again, we're kicking off the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series playoffs this weekend in Las Vegas. So good luck to all of our 16 drivers.
All right, guys. Picture time.
You guys want to line up?